This is the United Kingdom. A country which once held the title of having the largest economy, and we are sure you must be aware of the colonial empire they had. But things are not the same anymore. In the last few decades, the UK is at a crossroad, and the economic stability is at risk. The shadows of Brexit, stagnating living standards, and income inequality is haunting the UK's future. The lowest income households in the country currently have living standards that are far lower than those of nations like Germany and France. The younger generation, which had previously held out hope for a better future, is now faced with the harsh reality of reduced chances of homeownership and stopped pay advancement. The echoes of uncertainty intensify with the passing of time, creating a picture of a country on the verge of change. In this video we will break down the layers of changes and economic hardships that have shaped the story of the United Kingdom in the 21st century. To understand the current economic situation of the UK better, we must look at its history first. The UK was the first country which went through industrial revolution. Their economic output per capita increased by 50% between 1870 and 1900, a growth that was closely linked to a notable improvement in living standards. Also, the expansion of the British Empire significantly helped them gain control over global trade and access to resources, while also contributing to economic growth. This growth has been instrumental in maximizing exports and minimizing imports for their economy. But by the second half of the 18th century, things started to change. The Industrial Revolution started to spread across Europe and in the US. This was one of the biggest moments for the world economy. This started the modern capitalism that we have today. At the same time, due to overseas competition, losses of World War I and II, and the Great Depression between them, Britain's economy has suffered a lot. After the end of World War II, Britain ended with a lot of national debt, which led them to the nationalization policies of key industries. These changes slowed down the economy and industrial decline started in the UK. But by the time Britain rolled back the nationalization policy, it was too late, and Britain began to shift its emphasis from the manufacturing sector to the service-based economy. The service sector in the United Kingdom experienced significant expansion between 1990 and 2000, particularly in the areas of banking, finance, insurance, and business services. As a result, the UK began to close the gap with other nations like the US, Germany, and France. But there is a major problem with service-based economies: they don't create a lot of jobs. So widespread income inequality started in the UK. Since the 1980s, income inequality in the UK has been a recurring problem, and has remained high compared to other big European countries. The national minimum wage has been effective in reducing hourly wage disparities, but the gap between the wealthiest and the rest of the population has not decreased. This growing disparity is caused by a number of factors, including reduced working hours for lower earners, benefit reductions, and rising housing costs for lower-class households. With income per person in wealthy areas like Kensington and Chelsea being 4.5 times higher than in less prosperous areas like Nottingham, there is a notable difference in income between different regions. Now, another area where the UK is severely lacking is productivity growth. Productivity is a performance metric that evaluates a product's output in relation to the resources or input needed to produce. The input could be cash, labor, or equipment. Higher the productivity percentage means higher growth. For the UK, this century started promisingly. Between 1997 and 2007, British productivity growth was second only to America's within the G7 group of countries. Output per hour grew at an annual average rate of 1.9%. Unfortunately, the 2008 financial crisis hit this badly. After this, productivity fell everywhere, but in Britain, it fell sharply. Out of all the G7, UK's productivity growth rate from 2009 to 2019 was the second slowest. Labour productivity grew by just 0.4% a year in the 12 years following the financial crisis, and there hasn't been much of an improvement in recent years. A major contributing factor to this low productivity is the persistent and widespread underinvestment in the economy. Investment from the public and private sectors is declining in important areas like business services, manufacturing, finance, and insurance. This underinvestment is the reason for outdated technology, reduced innovation, and this hampers the skill development in all major sectors. Underinvestment can also be seen in education, skill development, and the development of human capital. In the UK, many students decide to pursue part-time work instead of continuing their education after turning 18, which renders them unfit for high-skilled employment. Additionally, those who decide on a higher education become captive in student loans, which function as a tax on them. As we are speaking of UK's current struggles, we cannot ignore the NHS, the UK's healthcare system. The NHS was once reliable and a global healthcare leader, but now the picture is totally different. Today the NHS faces mounting pressure, and is failing to deliver because of years of underinvestment and mismanagement. Years of underfunding have left hospitals with dated equipment and insufficient staff. Nurses and doctors grapple with long waiting lists and strain to deliver proper care. Critics argue mismanagement compounds the issue, with long bureaucratic processes hindering efficiency. And if you ask the results of this? Patients experience longer waiting times for surgeries and appointments, while staff burnout threatens service quality. Giving a good quality healthcare system is a must for a country's sustainable growth. But here the NHS undeniably requires a critical re-evaluation to ensure it can continue to deliver its service. Now, in order to gain control over the country's economics policies, in 2016 the UK decided to separate from the European Union. Many people believed Brexit could be a potential solution for UK's economic and productivity problems. But it hasn't produced any reliable outcomes. In turn, Brexit has resulted in a decrease in the UK's trade openness. This is primarily harming the manufacturing sector because of its reliance on European supply chains. Furthermore, the UK's exit has affected the flow of labour from other European countries, which is important for low-paying jobs in the manufacturing, mining, and fishing sectors. So, the UK's economy is in urgent need of a transformation to address the current challenges. In our analysis, we have found that the UK's service-based economy, particularly finance, ICT, and education, holds significant potential for growth and prosperity. New trade strategy that pursues trade agreements centered on services with nations like Canada and Japan can leverage the strength of the UK's service sectors. Additionally, in order to create high-skilled and high-paying jobs, the UK must revive the manufacturing sector by giving priority to high-value industries and ensure smooth trade with the EU. These new approaches also need to look beyond London, like investing in major cities like Manchester and Birmingham. In order to do all of this, more public spending is required. This entails building up a sizable infrastructure base, luring in highly skilled labor, and encouraging urbanization. Also, increasing government spending in vital sectors like sustainable energy and transport, while simultaneously putting policies in place to encourage investment from the private sector. The UK's story is one with incredible resilience and adaptation. It's true, there are challenges, but there's also a wealth of potential. The UK has a thriving services sector, a rich history of innovation, and a diverse, talented population. By focusing on these strengths, the UK can create an economy that's not just prosperous, but fair and sustainable for everyone. Now, what are your opinions on this video? Please tell us in the comments. And if you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing. Thank you.